Excellent.
Do you want me to write on it? I have to change my setup if I do. Like I have to lift my laptop and.
No, it's
Okay.
all good. I won't ask you to do that. Okay. I think we're good.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll get this started.
Here goes nothing.
No, I think that.
I have to change my setup if I do.
Oh, sorry.
Lift my laptop and.
I'm getting the background noise. Let me sort that out. This is always the fun.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll get this started.
Here goes nothing. We went back in time. I can't hear you.
I know. All right. This is like the rockiest start that I've had so far. We have 2 live viewers so far. Thank you for sticking in with us. And the other thing is muted. Okay. So Alia, just to like get it sorted, like we're good now, we're live. But
Okay.
what happened is I had like our live stream going on in the background and there's like a slight lag by like, well, I guess like 5-10 seconds. And so then I heard the loop there, but we're good now. And so officially we'll kick it off. I'm so excited to talk with you about this, especially because you are one of the best, if not the best, customer success trainer in the entire world. But one of your strongest passions is around giving gifts. And I think this opportunity to share your insight and best practices about how to create these delightful moments is going to be the big topic that we talk about today. Now, I know when we were preparing for this that one of the contexts that we wanted to add was, what is different about doing this during COVID-19 era? Now that people aren't going back into the office as much, what does that change about the types of gifts? But before we get into any of this, I'd love to start off. How did you get into your expertise around gift giving?
Great question. Thanks, Dan. It's a funny story. I have always loved giving gifts. That's my favorite thing. Birthdays are coming up. I'm thinking about it well in advance. But there was a moment in my life when I felt like, you know what, this is something that I really should think about in a different way. And of course, there's a story about it. I was applying for a job. It was this dream job of mine. And I'm in the interview stages and I go to meet with the president of this large company. It was like an executive role, nervous, but I go in and I have a notebook and just getting ready, I'm going into her office and I take out my notebook and this is the notebook. I keep it, it's my like good luck charm. So I had this notebook, pulled it out, and the woman who was interviewing me, she said, "That is a gorgeous notebook. It's beautiful." I said, "Yeah, it's from, the simple store. It's nothing special." She's like, "It's really, really," and she went on about it for a few minutes. I thought, we should just get started with this interview. I didn't say that. So of course I kept it on the table. She was asking me some questions. She was asking me what some of my favorite companies were, what I was reading, and we talked about Disney a little bit because I love Disney. They're the customer experience experts. We talked about a few other things. Interview wrapped up. I'm leaving. I put my notebook in my bag, and she's again, such a beautiful notebook. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to buy her this notebook. So the same day I go to the store, it wasn't hard to find. Like I knew exactly where I got it from, picked it up. I found this gorgeous vintage Disney wrapping paper, ribbon, found a card. I found out from her assistant when she was going back to New York, because she was actually in town for a few days, dropped it off to her office. I didn't hear a word, nothing. I had another interview with the CEO and then I had to do a presentation. And then when the VP called to ask to offer me the job, he says, "I don't know what you did, but she loves you. That president loves you." I said, "I dropped off this gift for her and I didn't hear anything." And he said, "She said to me, Alia gets it. I knew exactly who that gift was from. You need to hire her. She is the perfect person for this job." So that's how I got the job. Love my notebook. And that really inspired a love for gifts, but also the power that thinking about someone and creating an experience for them can have. Whether I got the job or not, I created an experience for that woman, and she will never forget where she got that book.
Yeah, yeah. So the things I'm picking up from that story is that you were observant. You were obviously nervous about going to interview, like all of us are, but you still reserved some brain space to say, like, you know what, that resonated with them. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that info yet, but then by the end, you figured out exactly how you were going to structure it. That's a really great story. So the gift got you a job. I love it, and I think that's a really powerful thing to think about, especially as there's a lot of people looking for jobs, and thankfully, still a lot of companies hiring. So there'll be some restructuring for how people land in new positions. But I don't think that regardless of whatever skill set you're bringing to the table, that is something that you should avoid. Like, I feel like observing what people like or figuring out in the right way is really good, but don't force it. So for that example, I don't think giving that notebook to everybody that you interview with would have that same impact. So how do you dance around if you're not sure what kind of gift, or you don't have that memory or observation with somebody about what they like? How do you deal with that?
That's very interesting. People often ask me, so do you have a menu of things that you can give to people? I said, yeah, but every person I give a gift to, there's a story behind it. So it really is about the objective of the gift. And the primary objective is love. If there is no love in this experience for that person, whether it's just, you want to create an experience, you want them to remember, you want to get their attention, it has to be genuine. So whatever you do, make it genuine, but think about, what do you want that recipient to do when they get the gift? What do you want them to say about it? And what do you want them to feel? So if you think about that, that will help you decide the best gift for that person. You're muted, Dan.
I know. Break those down one at a time for me. So
Okay.
what's that first one? Like, what do we do with that?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. A recent client that I worked with, a Winning by Design group of learners, we had a pretty long engagement with them. And so I knew these people really well. And so we would have these group conversations, comments would come up, especially, I started working with them before everyone was working from home. And then now that everyone's working from home, some of us are talking about having a drink at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So this conversation about wine kept coming up in multiple different conversations. And I thought, you know what, it would be really great for us to share a glass of wine together. That'd be so much fun. Virtual cocktail party, I guess. And I couldn't do that, obviously, too many people. But what I did was I sent everyone a personalized wine tumbler. Now, crazy execution, but the reason we did it, there was a story behind it, right? Everyone could buy into this idea that, yes, we're going to have a glass of wine together. I wanted them all to have this feeling. Notice there's no branding on this. It doesn't say Winning by Design. It doesn't have my company on it. It has the recipient's name. So that to me is really, really key. So I want that individual who receives the gift to have a story that they can tell, right? They show it to someone, they're using it. The person asks them, oh yeah, where did you get that? It has your name on it. And I'll tell you, if you have an uncommon name like mine, you can't find a keychain with your name on it, let me tell you. So for many of us, or we have a strange spelling to our name, it's a sense of pride. I actually have something with my name on it. And someone will ask me about it. Where did you get that? Oh, well, you know what? I was working with this company and they surprised me, and it just showed up at my door and has my name on it. So, really inspiring that conversation and that feeling that every time they use this or every time they look at it, they remember that experience, they remember that feeling. So it really elongates the feeling well beyond the engagement is over.
I love that. And I think that's such a good call out. You're dropping a lot of really interesting knowledge bombs that are easy to gloss over. So like, I, for example, have a pretty common name, but you just shouting out, like, it's not really about the name. It's about the personalized touch. It's about the story that goes beyond it. So don't overthink like what's personalized. But one of the highlights that you mentioned was like, don't overdo it. There's no reason to put on branding and like make them know like, oh, Winning by Design did this, or the company name that you work for. Like, no. This is a personal gift. And so I really like that highlight that you're sharing that. But I want to go back. You mentioned 3 things before. Did you say do, say, and feel?
No, yeah. So I want them to use this. I want them to think about me every time they use it. So it has to be something that they're going to use. I don't want it to be something that is going to sit in a drawer somewhere, right? Something that they're going to use every day. If they can pull it into their everyday life, that will almost help blur the lines between professional and personal. Not that you want to get personal, but it's something that they have a fond memory of that they're going to use. And it's not something collecting dust.
Got it.
So that's the do. The feeling is that, oh, I had a really great experience working with them. I remember what that was like. There's that famous Maya Angelou quote, we forget what people say, we forget what people do, but we do not forget how people made us feel. So we definitely want to tap into that feeling, and that's where the love comes from. And then the saying, what do we want them to say about this, right? So that's really about having a story to tell. So why did, if the fact that I gave this to someone, what do I want them to tell somebody else about this? Why is it a wine tumbler and not a coffee cup or not a notebook or whatever it is, right? There's a story behind that.
Good. And the purpose beyond I guess, what is the importance of why you want them to be able to say something about the gift? Why can't it just be something that they receive and it's just a personal thing?
So it can be, but I think we need to tap into some of this learning science, some of this brain science and feelings. And we can use it in a really creative way, especially during COVID, like you brought it up. When we're working from home, it's hard to have those physical conversations. It's hard to take someone out for coffee. It's hard to go for dinner. We would normally spend that money doing that when we're courting our customers or going to an on-site meeting or a training, whatever that is. How do you bring that feeling back and establish that relationship with your friends, with your peers, with your clients, with prospects too? How do you get someone's attention? And if you have a story that they can tell, that makes it even more powerful. You're basically giving them a port key to open up that conversation. I don't know if I'm getting too Harry Potter references there, but it's like this tangible thing that expands a thought or a conversation.
Got it. I love it. Yeah, I do think that a lot of people have the intention to give gifts and do a lot of the things of what you're describing, but we kind of get stuck on this mode of like, what do I actually give? So let's get into some of the tactical things that people can do with some of these insights that you're sharing. So the wine tumbler, that resonates with me because it got naturally brought up in the conversation. Everyone has a shared memory around that. But what if you don't have that type of memory, or you want to give something to somebody and you don't know them very well? What are the trade-offs of what to give versus what not to give?
Okay, so I would say definitely nothing branded. Okay, so that is an absolute no-no. The gift is about the person. So it is not about you. This gift is not, it may end up being marketing for you, but it is not something, it is not about the giver, it is about the receiver.
Don't
okay, so
lead with the branding.
No branding. So what I would say is whatever you're giving, and I'll give you some ideas in a minute, but whatever you're giving, make sure you have that handwritten note. Give them something, offer them that story around why this was the great gift. Help them have the language to say what you want them to say. Remind them why this was a gift that you gave for whatever reason that is. So definitely, I love your picture of a handwritten note. Yes, handwritten note for sure. Other things like, let me see, what have I done? I've done like personalized blankets. I've done, there was a colleague of ours who was going through some cancer treatment, and we wanted to give her something to remind her. She, on the other side of the world going through this pretty much by herself without Winning by Design people in her world, her physical world. And so some of the things we gave her was a blanket that had all of our pictures and memories of this time. And she took it with her to the hospital. She took it with her everywhere she went. And I wanted her to have that feeling of being hugged by all of us. Even though we couldn't physically be there, I wanted her to feel that love. So I think thinking about what the person would want to feel or what you want them to feel, it's hard. You do have to listen. There's really no way to get around it. Yes, there are some tips. Things like I said, notebooks are pretty good. People are not going to throw something out that has their name on it. It's a good thing to do. coffee cups, water bottles. But again, you need to think about what people already have, right? And if you're going to give something, make it the best quality thing that you can afford. So
Yes,
you want to make
that's a
sure
really
there's some
good like
pride.
insight.
Yeah, you want to make sure
Yeah.
they have some pride in using it, not just because it has their name on it.
Yeah, I totally feel what you mean. It's like sometimes like Moleskine, I think that's the notebook that you're using, or the Shinola notepad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are like great quality gift items, but you can't go to just Target and get like the standard notepad that you got like in elementary school. That doesn't inspire the same thing because it actually has the opposite effect. It's like you're trying to give a gift, but this is cheap. I'm not going to use it. Actually, like it's worse getting something like that
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like you're not putting in the effort. And I love the other element that you're saying is like, think about what they already have. So for example, when Amazon released their smart speakers or Google, like at the time, that would be an amazing gift.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been out a couple of years, and if people
Yeah.
wanted that, they probably would have stumbled about it. So the feeling that they would get from something like that isn't the same as it was if it was like first launch and brand new. Like, what is this exciting thing? And I'm the first person in my circle to have something, because then that's something that they can say, "Oh, you got the new Echo. Like, what's that like?" And now they can say, "Oh yeah, it's really great seeing it. It was an awesome gift that I got from blank." So I think that's a really cool way of thinking through what you're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Any, well, we don't have a super amount of time. And I'm going to go into the chat and see like if anybody has questions for us. But let's go on to the next part. So when to give versus when not to give. I know we've covered that slightly. So after an interview, great time to give something. After a training, great time to give something. So
Yeah.
what are some insights on when versus when not to?
Okay, so I will say do it as soon as you can after an experience or on the anniversary of an experience. So, there was an experience that I curated last year, and today is the anniversary of that experience. So I have an idea. I'm just going to send something really small. I want to talk about cost in a second, and things to think about, but thinking about an anniversary of an experience that you had. If you didn't send something right after, you can send it a year later or 6 months and say, I was thinking about this and I was thinking about you. Making sure you have some kind of story to reference why you're giving it at the time you're giving it. So immediacy is good, but if you forgot or it took you a long time, you can do it later. Just make sure you've got a story. An anniversary is a good thing. Interviews, great time. Again, I wouldn't spend too much. Make sure it's relevant to that person. Keep it small. If you can't afford something, a handwritten card that has some kind of meaning and a story behind it can be really, really powerful. So
Let's talk about this for a second, because when you first brought it up, I was like, oh, that's such a delightful moment. And then I just got reminded of a story of working with a CEO, and we were interviewing a new sales hire. And during the phone interview, it came up that the CEO was going to be a father again, have his second child. His wife was pregnant. And so the guy showed up with a wrapped gift. And it was like, oh, thank you. Like, that's really nice and thoughtful. But it ended up being a wrapped gift of diapers. And it's like, the intention was there, but the gift was off, but it was still thoughtful. There was a handwritten note, but something about that felt off. Not that it was a bribery, but I mean, the interview went okay. But I guess, how do you diagnose that scenario?
So diapers, okay, as a parent, you're a parent, you know the value of diapers. I don't know if I would give diapers, but if the person I was giving it to had a very strong philosophy around disposable diapers versus not, organic, or there was a really expensive brand that they wanted, right? You could then give maybe I'm not a fan of gift cards, personally, not a fan of gift cards, but you could give maybe a couple of diapers that are of this high-end brand.
So let me diagnose it with you using the framework that you gave us before, because I think this is what I'm picking up. Diapers useful like every day. So checkbox on the do. The feeling like, yeah, like diapers, I'm gonna have to buy that anyway. So
Yeah.
unless there's like a story around it, like, oh, these are the best organic cotton fiber, then it's like, this feels like not quite there. So
Yeah,
that's where it missed the mark, is it
yeah,
doesn't leave this feeling of joy. And then what am I going to say about it? It's like, oh, hey, honey, I got these diapers from, and then there's no real story behind it. So I
exactly.
think that's where it missed the mark. Okay, got it.
And there's good, and like, I mean, diapers is another thing. Think about something that is not disposable, right? Diapers in themselves are going to have poop in them. So there isn't as much longevity with these diapers. It's not going to really inspire the memory long term. But if there
Oh,
was
so
like
cloth diapers. Cloth
cloth
diapers would be
diapers,
great.
could, yes. Or if it's an item that you know that's been sold out everywhere, you finally got it. You know, there's some really high end. You know, the Sophie the giraffe was a really big toy about 10 years ago. It was almost hard to find because of whoever made it popular. Now they're very common. But just like you said, that Echo at that time was really common. So you can give something that can be related to a baby or to a family, or if you know something about them related to your baby. I have a different kind of suggestion for you around baby. If somebody's having a baby,
Okay, I
okay,
love it, but then I want to get into like, I want this feeling, because I also know you have great examples of sharing this
okay,
feeling. So yes, let's do the
sure.
baby thing, and let's get into the examples.
So talk to a client who was expecting their third child. They're a huge LeBron James fan. What I wanted to send was a T-shirt for the dad that said, it was like a LeBron T-shirt, and then have a onesie, a matching onesie that was like a LeBron, and play on this person's name, which kind of sounded like LeBron and like LeBron Jr., and do a little play. Again, doesn't actually cost that much, but it's so there's such a feeling. It follows those three elements. It's useful. Baby can use it. The dad can keep it, even if baby poops all over it. Great feeling and a great story.
I love it. Yeah, it's exactly right. And it just comes back to being thoughtful and listening to them and knowing what they care about.
Love,
So
love.
speaking of, show us some love. You have a couple of screenshots that I think will be great. Like, when you do this right, here's the outcome that you can expect. And then we'll go quickly into the ROI element.
Perfect. Okay, so I have a few. These were the cups that I had given, and you'll notice that James is a different color than Will's. But some of the comments, you know, it's often the small things that make a memorable impact. Thanks for this surprise. There's this element of surprise and delight. I didn't tell them I was sending them something. I stealthily got their addresses, which is another tricky thing right now during COVID. And it just appeared, right? Appeared at their doorstep. Usually, if you can time it to arrive the same day as an expensive bill, would be a nice thing. But you know, having this surprise and delight moment is really wonderful. Here's another one around popsicle moments. That's something that we talk about at Winning by Design, having popsicle moments. So here, you know, some really great feedback there. Another one, this is one of the notebooks that we gave, and you can see, I'm so touched. I just opened your gift. This is the best gift anyone could ever give me. That is the love that, you know, there's that person is never going to forget where they got that from. This is the last one that I wanted to share. I had the person I sent something to, I sent them wine. They were having a really rough day. This was during COVID. You know, they're home with a kid and struggling with work, struggling with the kid, and just feeling like they're not enough. And I know those of you who are moms out there, you're really feeling this right now. Sent her a couple of bottles of wine, showed up on her doorstep, again, a surprise. And the comments that I got was, so sweet to take the time to send me this gift, especially in the middle of all this chaos. You clearly get me. Okay. Now, the clearly get me part, you have to do some research. You have to be stealthy and you have to execute. So everyone has ideas, but you need to execute it.
Thank you. When I hear that, it's like, I feel you. And it's almost like you're creating, and I know that you don't mean it like this, but like, you're so good at it. And this is something that you've been optimizing. But how does somebody who is not great at gift giving or is concerned about the price of it, how do they get over that hump of like being stealthy or thoughtful or amount of time? And before you like officially answer it, the context of that I felt because of your inspiration is, over the holidays, I used Love Pop cards, and those are such like a delightful thing. Now they're more expensive than normal cards, but it's that surprise element, like, oh, this is cool. And if you've never seen a Love Pop card, it's a pop-up, but it's beautifully designed. And the key for that is the handwritten note inside. And so the process that I realized is that, well, as a training group, we're always learning from each other. And so one of the gifts that I gave was a book. Now, one way to do that would be like go on Amazon and ship each individual book. But what I chose to do instead is get all the books shipped to me and then package it with a note inside it. That cost more. There was more on shipping because now it's technically like double shipping. And I had to get the card there and then package it. So there was more cost. But if I go back to your framework of the do, feel, say, it's like, that's why it's worth the extra expense. It's not good enough to get close, because if you miss out on one of these things, it's like not really worth the effort. Like you could have spent a little bit more. And then what you emphasized was time. The biggest part about a gift is the thoughtfulness or the time that it took to get that. Not just because you have Amazon Prime, like, or Prime, and you're like, oh, you know what, that book, like, let me just send it over. If possible, write a note in it or do something that like shows the slight extra effort. That can make all the difference. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And shipping is a nightmare. Like, if you think about the actual cost of the gift, oftentimes the shipping, whether you're shipping it directly from Amazon or whoever, we can talk about that in a sec, or you're having it, having it shipped to you and then shipping it out, the shipping cost can be double or triple what the actual cost of the gift is. So
yes, and I think real quick, what I figured out to help with that, especially with the books, is media mail, at least to the US Postal Service. I think when I shipped it to you in Canada, it also worked, but I don't remember actually now. But media mail is great for books or notepad, anything that is literally paper. So that can help with shipping. But like your mugs, I think going UK to Canada or vice versa, like there's a significant expense there. But sorry to interrupt.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Thinking about the shipping costs cannot be minimized. That handwritten note, really, really important. And the time that it takes. Oftentimes, if you're valuing your time and you're calculating how much time you're spending, you're often going to have to spend that time, which is going to cost more than the gift itself. So you really need to do the ROI of it. But if you're not sure what to give or if you're giving the right thing, take a chance. As long as you can follow the do, feel, say, it may not be perfect, but if it's coming from love, the way that I see it, it really is the thought that counts. If you are giving something with love, I feel like the love goes in the mail too.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful way of saying it, because even like the term ROI on a gift feels a little bit off, because the purpose of a gift is not to get something in return. Like it feels like a barter. It's like, hey, I just did this thing and now I expect something in return. I think the real point of it is like, do something for the other person and find the budget that fits within the feeling that you're trying to do. And if you do this enough and you add more love out into the world, like you're going to get it paid back somehow, some way. But it doesn't need to be one-to-one. It doesn't mean because I invested in this, like I get it back from that person. It can be spreading out the love. And then some people will like share it back in another way, maybe introduce you to a new company when you're looking for your next job in a couple of years or things like that. So I think don't overemphasize the short-term return on investment, but instead just building up long-term relationships. And it goes back to that first thing that you had mentioned. It's like, people will remember how you made them feel. You don't need to put your name on the notepad and be like, remember, this was given by Alia. It's not about that. They will remember who did that. And every time they look on it, they'll be filled with joy. So it's been really delightful talking with you today and getting some of your insights. And I actually feel more comfortable about this than I did going into it, because like gifting is still a little bit nerve-wracking for me, especially when the holidays are coming. But we have 6 months to prepare. So everybody who's watching this, start thinking about your gifting strategy for the rest of the year and don't leave it to the last minute.
Yeah.
Alia,
I'm going to add, can I add one more point about holidays?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. If you leave with one thing of a do not send gifts at Christmas. Do it in October. Don't compete with everyone else giving a gift. Surprise is your friend. I think we need another session to talk about that, but no Christmas gifts.
I'm in. I love it. Well, thank you, Alia. Is there anything else that you want to close out with today for everyone?
No, I would just say lead. Sounds cheesy maybe, but lead with love. It will not steer you wrong. It is a long game. Put that investment out there, put that investment into the universe. It will come back. I promise you, it will come back. I have seen it firsthand.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Really
Thank
great working with you. And thank you for sharing your extra insight with everybody. Look forward to our paths crossing again soon.
Thanks, Dan.